Can you tell us a little bit more about your silence projects?
Yeah, Silent Project. Well, Silent Project is something that I originally started as my own personal project. I was thinking about things like how the space is divided in urban environment, and also how noisy everything is. And at that time, I was already away from Finland for 20 years, and I was thinking a lot about my roots in Finland, because it is very much of a country that has, a lot of silence and a lot of nature, and there's a lot of space. And I was also interested of looking into the everyman right, where the space is divided very fairly with people, which of course comes with this responsibility that you also have to take care of your environment. And I was thinking about many things about silence, and also realizing this thing that it has become a kind of luxury product.
Yeah.
Because I suppose there is not so much silence in this world anymore.
Yeah.
And so then I wanted to create this project, like a larger interdisciplinary project that would have art as a kind of core, but then would build also different, approaches towards silence.
Yeah.
So seminars, and at the moment we're also planting a forest and different kind of things, but always connecting with this silence.
Yeah, and I know the Silence Meal, which is part of the Silence Project.
Yeah.
I have been to it. It was quite a very fascinating experience.
Yeah.
Can you maybe explain to our audience, like, what is the Silent Meal?
Yeah. Well, I originally created for the artists, really, because we started in this small residency in a small island in Suomenlinna in Finland, outside Helsinki. And I just thought that it would be, interesting to have a silence meal as an end to this residency. And then it kind of grew into there, and became something that I wanted to do as a pre-opening, because as an artist, I mean, I'm creating the exhibitions for the Silent Project, but I'm more of an artist curator than curator, and so I wanted to bring this experience. So I brought the artist and invited guests and press into this fabulous, 3-course meal in silence, and I wanted them to experience the artist and the artwork in silence. And then afterwards, the traces maintain and sort of turn into an installation. So that was kind of the starting point. But very early on, it was quite clear that it's quite an interesting experiment. I mean, it is a psychological experiment in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
And lots of things happened, like surprising a lot, like hierarchies disappear, and people, connect to themselves, and I think it goes in silence in a very sort of deep human communication level, which is very beautiful and powerful. And also, of course, you pay attention to all those things that you don't normally notice.
Yeah.
Senses and sounds and.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I remember actually when I went to it, I had like certain expectation in mind, but when I really experienced it, I discovered like completely new things, like how I connected with like objects in front of me, or how I really communicated with people, even though it was like silent. And I think it was an experience where you really also discover yourself. Yeah, better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think you go very much to yourself, but then at the same time you are of course surrounded by all the other people, and you return into that.
Yeah. Do you have any stories or feedback that you have received from people that you can actually share?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we always kind of, send an email to all the participants. So if they want to, they can sort of write about their own experience. And some people do. And I think at some point I'm going to make a little piece about that. But I think the main thing really is that people's experiences are very different, and I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that you will remember. And if I think about the silence meals that were, I mean, I always find it very interesting and quite powerful and beautiful to see when people, which maybe normally, wouldn't be sitting in the same table with each other, maybe they have a different political or religious background, for instance, and how they connect within this meal by some small similarities, which can be something, just a tiny little moment, or and I think that's very powerful. Yeah. So I think we are more similar than different. No, I think the way people connect is something that I found very powerful.
I think when people don't talk, then there are less problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although they talk a lot afterwards. Very much so.
Yeah, it's true. And there was also something very interesting. I mean, when I was talking to you at the beginning about this project, you mentioned that silence should be human rights.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's part of being a human, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about being connected to yourself, and also just, for me, it's a lot about being free, not being influenced by too many people, just to have enough space to know what you think about things. For me, it's about that too, very much. Yeah.
I mean, going back actually from this project, I'm curious actually to just know, how did you decide to become an artist?
How did I decide it? Well, I come from a very artistic family. So, I mean, I grew up with writers and painters and also a lot of business people. So art was always there. And I went to science school also, which was, very, there was a lot of art in there. So, and in my 20s, I worked a lot in films, and I was sort of trying different fields. I always been in the creative field, but I think somewhere in the 30s, I realized that I really want to be an artist, and fine artist, and concentrate on my own things, and only that. So at the end, it was really a conscious decision to be an artist.
What kind of impact are you seeking through your art?
Well, I mean, it is a way of communicating, of course, but impact. I mean, I would be very disappointed if you wouldn't feel anything about my pieces. But also, I mean, something like the silence meal, it's not so much about the artist. It's just that I, as an artist, I provide a form of experiment, and so it's more about the person then, isn't it, and their own experience, rather than focusing on me. But I think especially something like the silence project, silence meal, is something that you will remember. And if you go to the very basics of the performance, the way I think personally is that, if you take one ingredient away, then the whole experience changes a little bit. And when something changes a little bit, it also changes the routine a little bit. And I think the hope of this is that maybe something new would come out. You would see something a little different, or maybe a new thought would come to your mind, or you would learn something about yourself or others, or notice that you wouldn't before.
I can totally confirm that. Like, I experienced it, and definitely I had like new thoughts, and old thoughts that I had the opportunity to really think again about them. Was really very fascinating experience. So, being an artist here in Berlin, also in Finland, what are the challenges and the opportunities that you see artists in Germany, Finland, maybe also all over the world are facing?
Well, I think the art industry has changed, and I think this has naturally happened a lot with the social media as well. And I think this is something that is both opportunity and challenge. Because you have, as an individual artist, you have a lot of more channels to be noticed. And lots of artists are finding their own. I mean, it also opens a lot of possibilities for collaborations, and I think this is very positive, and I like that personally. And that's quite different from this very traditional way of having a gallery, and then having your dealer, which then do all the marketing and all that. So I think the ideal situation would be that you would have both. So I see it more positive than challenge. Like I see more possibilities there than challenges.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. And what would you advise anyone starting actually in this art field? What would you like advise them?
Young artist.
Yeah.
I would say trust your instinct. Produce a lot of work, and don't sell yourself cheap. And definitely, no, but don't overprice either. You have to be sort of realistic about things. Humble. And I would also, advise all the artists to stay away from any of these shows where you have to pay something to get in, and have enough time to develop your own language and way of doing. I think that's important.
Yeah. That's a very wise advice. Thanks a lot for really the very insightful interview.
Thank you.
If you want to know more about the Silence Project, I will leave the links in the description, below in the description. You can also get in touch with Nina. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, really, it was an honor.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy
Ciao.
New Year.
Yeah.